Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the webinar, Conducting a Job Search in the New Normal. Tonight's webinar is a partnership between the Robert H. Smith School of Business Office of Alumni Relations and the Smith School's Office of Career Services. I would also like to recognize the Smith DC Nova Alumni Club who suggested tonight's webinar. My name is Mark Forrest and I am the Program Director of Alumni Relations for the Robert H. Smith School of Business. Please note, this webinar is being recorded and will be captioned. Please mute your audio line and disable your video. If you have questions, we encourage you to use the chat feature to enter any questions or comments you may have for the presenters. And with that, I will introduce our speakers for the evening. This evening we have Courtney Bigger, is a dedicated higher educational professional with more than 10 years of career services education under her belt, working with undergrads seeking to develop holistic career journeys. As the Associate Director of Undergraduate Programming on the undergraduate team in the Office of Career Services, OCS, she oversees the strategic direction of the Business Management 367 Career Search Strategies course and manages first year and new student programming. Additionally, she is responsible for the integration of career services at the Shady Grove campus. Erika Harrigan is a certified professional resume writer, a certified career management coach, a certified executive and leadership development coach, and a professional development trainer with more than 20 years of experience helping professionals transition to new careers and advance within their chosen fields. Erika currently serves as Assistant Director and MBA Career Consultant for the working professional students in Smith's online and part-time MBA programs. Rachel Loock is the Associate Director of EMBA Career Coaching, Programming and Outreach for executive MBA students. She is a career and leadership coach with over 13 years of experience and holds the Associate Coach credential from the International Coach Federation. Prior to her current role, she was Director of Undergraduate Career Services, also at Smith. Please welcome our speakers.
Thanks, Mark, for that introduction. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us this evening on a beautiful sunny day in the Washington, D.C. College Park area or wherever you are. We have woken up to a new normal. There's lots of ambiguity, nothing is certain, and it's very unsettling. I can imagine you are all in a state of shock and feeling very dislocated from your colleagues, family, and friends. We're all adjusting to this in our own way to this new situation. We encourage you to allow yourself forgiveness and flexibility. You will get through this. And at times like this, you will allow yourself the chance to examine opportunities that may present themselves in unexpected ways. The key is to be resilient, persistent, and flexible, and know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Circumstances are changing rapidly, and your ability to adapt will be critical. During this webinar, we will be sharing some tips and strategies you can incorporate into your job search during these uncertain times. If ever there was a time to be fearless, now is it. So let me go ahead and advance my slide. 3 months into this pandemic, and our country is facing challenges on a scale that we've not seen before in recent history. Would anyone like to share in the chat box how they are feeling? Maybe it's anxious, maybe it's angry, scared, hopeful. Go ahead and share those in the chat box, and we'll just take a look at kind of where people are at this point in time. Okay, lack of control from one. Uncertain. Making the best out of everything. Overwhelmed by competition. Laid off, unemployed. Hopeful, frustrated, anxious. Confused about expectations. So we really have got a range of feelings, and know that all of these feelings are normal and may change from day to day. And with all of this in mind, we suggest that it's best to keep networking and applying to jobs, provided that you change your approach just a bit to acknowledge these uncertain times. The thinking behind this approach is that the people who continue to build relationships, connect, and share ideas with other professionals will be in a better position than the people who sit this one out, and in a better position when companies start hiring than those who did not continue to reach out. In dealing with this ambiguity and this uncertainty, it's very important to show patience, resilience, and be able to demonstrate that you will add value to a potential employer's company. How you behave now shows an employer how you will behave dealing with a challenge at work and ambiguous situations. Additionally, you may want to create a plan B and a plan C based on what your original career goal was, and consider opportunities you may not have considered before. So let's take a look at that and assess exactly what it is you can control. So the first area is taking care of yourself. This may seem obvious, but it can be easy to neglect. Stressful situations can be exhausting. Fatigue and anxiety can also lead to a loss of self-confidence. Eating well, exercising, practicing mindfulness, walking in nature, and virtual exercises can be helpful in maintaining a healthy balance. Keeping a regular schedule is also important. Health and wellness experts strongly suggest establishing a regular schedule and sticking to it. Waking up and going to bed at the same time every day, not napping during the day, and incorporating physical activity into your day is very important, especially during challenging times. The UMD Fitness Center is offering free workout videos via Instagram. You may have found your own source of exercise and or getting outside. That's the website to the UMD Rec Center. We also think it's very important to set up a quiet workspace with the resources that you need that's free from distractions. And you want to devote time to the job search regularly, but balance your job search efforts with other healthy activities such as exercise, checking in with friends, and other activities that you may enjoy. You also want to limit the time that you spend reading the news and or on social media. Another great strategy that we believe can be helpful is getting an accountability buddy or someone you can check in with about your job search. Maybe this is a close friend or family member or former coworker. Just knowing that you have that accountability check and that there's someone that you'll be reporting to on your activities and someone to commiserate with and share successes can be very helpful. Prepare and practice. So we also view this time as the time to prepare and practice your SAR stories. Hopefully you remember that from either your undergrad or your graduate days here at Smith. Your response to tell me about yourself, and most importantly, your virtual networking and interviewing skills. This is also a great time to learn a new skill. Perhaps you can pick up a certification or take some classes that you've been meaning to take. Hosting your online meeting is another way to connect with others. And most importantly, being kind and patient with yourself, with friends and family members is very important. We're all processing the stress of the situation in different ways. The future is uncertain, and you most likely will have to wait longer to get a job than you would have 3 months ago. And if you can't do any or all of these things listed on the slide, that's okay too. Focusing on what you can control is in service to keeping your job search moving forward. Looking at it from the employer's standpoint, accept that there will be delays in hiring. Companies are still figuring out what's next for them, depending on the industry that they're in and how it's been impacted by the pandemic. Hiring may be put on hold or the posting of positions delayed. HR departments are also likely overwhelmed with taking care of current employees, figuring out how to safely reopen, and operating in the new normal. It's important to accept this and realize that it is temporary. We also suggest that you're open to new industries, functions, and locations, as well as the type of job that you might not have considered before. You may also want to consider part-time and/or contract employment, or even volunteer work as an option, as a way to build your resume during this time. When one door closes, another door opens, and new opportunities may present themselves due to the shocks in the economy. Be aware of this and be ready to capitalize on these opportunities. Know what industries and companies are hiring. We're going to take a high-level look at that a little bit later in this webinar. And knowing that will better prepare you to understand what opportunities may make sense for you. You want to continue to nurture and expand your network. Hiring needs may change and will shift rapidly. And know that this is a temporary situation. Again, use this time to perfect your career story so that you're ready when the job market opens up again. And from Nike, just do it with grace, patience, and understanding. An added benefit of the job search, of continuing the job search, is that it also provides an edge over those who stop searching. And by continuing your efforts in this area, you'll be in front of potential employers when others aren't. They'll think of jobs, they'll think of you when jobs open up. And so just with that in mind, I'm now turning it over to Erika.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So let's talk about what you can actually do in this new normal that we're talking about today. You can and should still take action, but we have to do it a little bit differently than we have in the past. Your strategy now, these days, is completely virtual. In fact, LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. So for the balance of our time together, we're going to cover how you can take action virtually. And some of the things that we will cover today include building your network. We'll take some time to talk about enhancing your virtual presence, practice your virtual interview skills, develop new skills and competencies, access HireSmith and other job search resources, and participate in virtual job fairs. Now, you've heard the word virtual a lot, just in this one slide. And when you think about virtual and the job search, I suspect some of you may have applied to positions online on job boards. And if we had a virtual show of hands, I would bet many of you would say that you've heard absolutely nothing since the, some of you may have heard absolutely nothing after applying. And that's because there's an average of about 250 resumes submitted for each open position. And about 75% of those resumes get screened out of the entire hiring process, simply because they don't have the appropriate keywords on their resume. So they're not triggering the applicant tracking system, or ATS, as you may have heard. That's really frustrating. And that was before COVID-19. And essentially the same thing applies today, but it may be exacerbated a bit by the uncertainty that some companies may have regarding their future hiring. So what's best is that we focus on the things that work. And one of the things that work is the process of networking. And 75 to 85%, you'll see numbers in that range of jobs are acquired through networking, not the online boards. You can still post your resume there, but it's the networking that really is what's going to propel your job search forward. And particularly if you're really strategic about that. And we'll talk about how to be strategic about that job search in a little bit. One of the questions that I get often as a coach, and I'm sure that Rachel and my colleague Courtney have received it as well, is now the time to network, considering all that's going on in the world? And the answer to that is yes, today is a great day to begin networking. A lot of the individuals I've spoken to, as an example, who are socially distanced and really are just having interactions with their family and their colleagues about the day-to-day work, they crave that interaction with other people. They would love the opportunity to chat with someone, to share their experiences and their insight, and just to help, because people are generally helpful. So yes, today is a great day to begin networking, and throughout the next few slides, we'll talk a little bit about a strategy on how to do that. So the first thing you may want to consider when you talk about networking is that you may want to start networking by considering the contacts that you have. I would recommend that you build your network by leveraging our TERPs and the TERPs Helping TERPs spirit that lives here at the Smith School of Business. In my 8 years here, I've seen alumni, I've seen those interactions do phenomenal things for current students as well as alumni who are looking to make big changes. So we have 60,000 alumni all throughout the country, with about 30,000 right in the DMV area. There's so many people to tap into. And on this screen, I'm going to share with you a couple ways how. The first one on the left side of your screen is Terrapins Connect, which is run by the Alumni Association. And some of you may already be on it. The great thing about Terrapins Connect is it is the UMD alumni network where alumni, other alumni, perhaps you, have opted in to serve as a resource, to serve as a mentor, to serve as an advisor, to serve as a mock interviewer, to serve as someone who can help other students and alumni who need that help. So the fantastic thing about Terrapins Connect, the UMD alumni network, is that people have already said yes. So it's just a matter of signing up as a mentee and searching for the type of person you'd like to meet, whether it's someone in a particular geographic area, maybe it's someone with a particular job title, perhaps it's someone who's at a particular company. You can use Terrapins to connect, to search for that person, and then reach out to them. And the fantastic thing about Terrapins Connect, as you can see on this screen, is that once you find the person that you're looking for, it will show you the things that this person is willing to talk about. So you can just check off what you're interested in doing, whether it's learning about their company, learning about their industry, perhaps having them review your resume. It's a fantastic resource for that. But not only do you know what it is they're willing to do, but as you can see on the right-hand side of this page, you can actually use this platform to schedule a meeting with them, whether it's an online meeting or whether it's a meeting by telephone, in light of the fact that we are in a virtual environment. So Terrapins Connect is a fantastic tool to reach out to alumni who are open and interested in helping you with any questions and insight that you need. And it is a platform where you can schedule those meetings. In addition to the Alumni Association, on the right-hand side, there's another resource there that is a fantastic resource, and it is the LinkedIn page of Hiresmith. I'm sorry, the Hiresmith LinkedIn page. Now, this is different from the LinkedIn group. It's not the same thing. What this particular page does is it shows you, it captures all 24,129 alumni, Smith alumni, who are on LinkedIn. So it's a fantastic resource that you can use. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, 24,000 people is quite a bit. And if you scroll down, you can see them all. You'll see their pictures, you'll see their job titles, you'll see their company names and the grad date. But the fantastic thing about this particular resource is you can actually use the filters in order to filter people by geographic location. So if you're interested in just finding the people who work in Baltimore, I think you'll find about 2,700 who work in the Baltimore area who are on LinkedIn. If you're interested in finding people who work for a particular company, let's say T. Rowe Price, you'll find that by doing that filter as well. Or you can use the search box to look up, let's say, a specific title. Or you can do them all in combination in order to find the right person, the people that you really want to meet. And then once you do that, if you scroll down, you'll see their faces, you'll see their job titles, you'll see their company names, and you'll see their grad years. And all you need to do is reach out to them. And I'll talk a little bit more about how as we move forward in this session today. So I talked a little bit about leveraging the Terps helping Terps philosophy here and all of our Smith Terps. And like I said, there are 60,000 throughout the country. So there are a whole lot of people that you can reach out to just here. And the fact that you have something in common with them is a reason why they would reach out to you, back to you. However, there are other sources that you may want to look at as well. And what I'd like to do is just take a moment to have you kind of crowdsource what other sources there might be for you to build your network. And as you think about them, go right ahead and enter them into the chat box. Think about some of the resources or the people that have worked for you, right? Or if you haven't yet found sources that have been helpful for you in networking, think about what might be great. You know, what are some of your ideas? And feel free to enter them into that chat box, and feel free to write down some of the things that some of the other participants have said, because I'm sure that we're going to have some fantastic ideas down here. So let's see if we get a few of them, and then I'll move forward. And as we continue, and as we talk more about strategy, and as we talk more about some other things, some ideas, additional ideas may come to mind. Even though we pass the screen, go ahead and continue putting that information in the chat box there so that we can all share it, because that's also what Terps Helping Terps is all about, right? Sharing ideas, sharing information, and sharing insight. And I see that we've got a few of them already shared. Some people talked about professional associations and special interest groups. Awesome. LinkedIn local events, network under 40, volunteering, perfect. A lot of professional associations, informational discussions, extracurriculars, fantastic. These are all phenomenal. Veterans Network, perfect, perfect. Keep adding them in there as you think of them, and jot them down as you see them, because these are all fabulous ideas, and these are additional ways that you can build that network. So go right ahead and do that. And as you're adding more things to this particular screen, I'm going to move ahead and talk a little bit about the strategy, right? Because again, you know, 24,000 alumni is fantastic. However, it's a little bit unrealistic to interact with each and every one of them. So it's important that we be strategic during this process. And here's how. Number one, the thing you want to do is know the job or title that you want. It's critically important that you know yourself and know what it is you want. Some of you may say, well, I'm open, you know, I'm flexible, you know, whatever comes my way, I'm open, I'll just see what comes. The problem with that is if you don't know exactly what you want, if you don't know the job, if you don't know the title, if you're not really sure and clear about that, then your job search is going to take a little bit longer, because you will be taking a more reactive approach to the job search, basically waiting for things to open up online, waiting for, you know, jobs to come your way. When you do that, then you're competing with those other 249 people who are applying for those same jobs. However, if you know the job and you know the title that you want, you can take control of your job search and be more proactive. And by taking a proactive approach to the job search, you will increase your chances for landing something. And not just anything, but the type of role that you want, especially now in these times. So in addition to knowing the job or title that you want, and I recommend that you write that down, it's also important that you consider the companies you want to work for. You know, create a target list of companies. Don't just look at any company. Sure, if something comes up, apply to it. But in addition to doing that, it is critically important that you have a target list of companies. What companies are there out there that you would want to work for? And granted, right now, some companies may not necessarily be hiring. Some companies may be hiring. It is in your interest, your best interest, to just jot down the companies that you want to work for and start making connections within those organizations. And again, I'll tell you how as we move forward. If you're not sure exactly what companies that you can add to your list, but you know what industry is of interest to you, one source that you may want to consider is the business journals, okay? Every major metropolitan area has a business journal. You can find one in Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, New York, all throughout the country. You can find those business journals on bizjournals.com, bizjournals.com. And when you go onto big business journals, you can select what city you're looking at. And over on the upper left-hand corner, you can select which industry you're open to. And if you select a particular industry, let's say aerospace, you can find articles on different companies that are within that industry and within the location that you're targeting. If you're seeing that there are some companies that are moving from one location to another, that may be a company you might want to add to your list because maybe they might be hiring because they're moving and they may lose some people. If you see some companies that have just gotten a new contract, that's a company that you may want to target. Why? Because if they have a new contract, they might have opportunities a little bit later on in order to fulfill the work that that contract requires. Those are called hidden market opportunities. Those are opportunities that are not yet posted. However, they're coming down the pipeline. So in order to strategically place yourself in a fantastic position for those opportunities, it's good to make some connections within those organizations, which takes me to our next point. The next thing that you want to do is find people. Now that you know the job or the title that you want, and now that you have a list of companies that you want to target, use Terrapins Connect, which I talked about a few minutes ago, or LinkedIn to find people who are at that company, preferably who are also in the title, holding the title that you're looking at, or managing people who hold the titles that you're looking at, or who are on the teams of the people who have the titles that you're looking at. Finding these kind of people, these people will help with the job search because you can get some fantastic insight and information from them that the HR recruiter may not necessarily have. You know, for instance, if they know they're working on a project and that project's going to open up some opportunities, by making that connection, they will know you. And should that opportunity become available, they will think of you. If someone within their organization leaves, they will know that before HR knows that. So that's why you kind of want to make connections, not just with HR, but with people who are in the roles or who supervise people in the roles that you're looking for. Those are going to be your best bets for reaching out. When you reach out, you want to send initial connection requests. And we recommend sending them during work hours. And the reason why is because if you send them during work hours, they're more likely to get it while they're there. Whereas if you send it late in the evening or early in the morning, it might get buried among other emails. So send those initial connection requests during work hours. And you can do it one of two ways. You can certainly use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fabulous tool for that. And when you make a connection request using LinkedIn, what you want to do is personalize that request. You don't want to use I would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. You don't want to do that. Personalize that request. Same thing if you're sending an email. What you want to do is personalize that email that you're sending out. One way to do that is to use what's called the 5-point email. The 5-point email is a process designed by Steve Dalton, who wrote the book, The 2-Hour Job Search, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And here are the guidelines. It's a very short email or message that's going to have fewer than 100 words. You're not to mention jobs anywhere in the email. Okay, mentioning jobs up front scare people away. You want to make sure they get to know you first, get to trust you before you start talking about jobs. So don't mention jobs anywhere in the email. Someone once said, if you ask for advice, you might get a job, but if you ask for a job, you'll probably just get advice. If a connection referred you, you want to make sure that that connection's name goes first, that it's listed in that email. You want to generalize your interests, so don't be too specific. Just give them some general information of why you want to speak, and then you want to follow up. So here's an example of that 5-point email. Dear Rachel, my name is Erika Harrigan, and I am a Smith alum who found your name on LinkedIn. May I have 15 to 20 minutes to ask about your experience at the Robert H. Smith School of Business? I'm trying to learn about career development within different organizations, and your insight would be very helpful. I realize this may be a busy time for you, so if we're unable to connect by email, I'll try to reach you next week to see whether that's more convenient. Thank you for your time. Best, Erika Harrigan. And the reason why the email ends with, I know you might be busy, so if we're unable to connect, I'll follow up at a time that's more convenient, is so that you can follow up at a time that's more convenient. Because sometimes people are not able to respond immediately. So, give them that grace. It happens, and just reach out again and see if they can respond. And if not, then you move on to the next person in your list. When you schedule the conversation, we recommend scheduling it during their lunch hour. Try to make it convenient for them. But if not during the lunch hour, during the evening, just let them drive what times and days are good for them. And just be sure that you're flexible, but let them know what days and times are not good for you so that you can schedule it smoothly. Send a calendar invitation to secure the time. And then one key part about networking that people forget is that you should follow up afterwards. Follow up with a thank you note immediately after the interaction that you've had. And put it on your calendar to follow up with them again 30 days later, about a month later, just to check in, thank them again for the information they gave, let them know what you acted upon and how that worked out, to let them know that you're open to any other information or advice they have to share, and also to let them know that you are also available to them should they need anything. Because it should not be a one-way thing, it should be two ways, and you might be surprised at the things that they may ask. So be sure that you follow up and open yourself up to being of assistance to them as well. So I can take an entire day talking about networking, but we've got some other topics to cover. So one thing that I will recommend that you take a look at is this book called The 2-Hour Job Search. This book is a fantastic book. It's written for MBAs. However, no matter what program you're in, and even if you've graduated years ago, you can still use the information here and tweak it in order to make it useful to you. What this does is it helps you really structure your time by taking a very systematic approach to the job search, step by step. And I have met Steve Dalton, who's the author of this book, and I can tell you that he is a self-professed introvert. So for those of you who are a little shy, a little introverted, and not too much of a fan of networking, this is a great book for you. So please do take a moment to take a look at it if you can. The 2-Hour Job Search breaks things down to help you prioritize the search by building your target list and sorting it in the most appropriate manner. It enables you to plan your approach by conducting what are called informational interviews. So you're not doing this to ask for a job, you're doing this in order to get information and insight that will inform the next steps of your job search. And through these relationships, opportunities organically arise. So the more you do it, the better. And in addition to that, you want to continue building that list, finding new employers to add to the target list, and finding articles on these employers so that you have something to chat about. So that was a bit about the job search and how to build that network and use it strategically. And now we're going to pass it along to Courtney, who's going to bring us home with some additional information. Courtney?
Thank you, Erika. Hi, everyone. Stay with me. I know we've been through a lot, and there's a lot more to keep going through. But the next topic we really want to talk about is how to enhance your virtual presence. So we kind of talked about what it meant to be virtual and what it meant to do the networking. But what does it really mean to put yourself out there? And for those self-proclaimed introverts, that can be hard sometimes. So hopefully some of these tips can help. First and foremost, what's going to be really important for you is to create or review your LinkedIn profile. And I know probably everyone on this call has a LinkedIn profile, and you're saying, Courtney, that's really, really obvious. But your LinkedIn profile is really important because it defines who you are. It tells your professional story and your personal brand. And you want that brand to shine. So it might take a little bit of soul searching in a day or two to say, what is my brand? How do I define myself? If I were to look at myself, what is it that says that? The other piece is this is a great opportunity to use keywords, those keywords that might come from whatever industry you want to go into or functional role that you're looking for. That would be another piece for it as well. And thirdly, it can maintain consistency with your resume, which is always important, because if you email your resume out to someone and then they go to your LinkedIn page, which is at the top of your resume, and it's totally different, they might go, something seems inconsistent here. That consistency is really important between all of your platforms. So remember, that goes back to your brand and your story. Consistency is a part of that. Another piece is, and as many of you mentioned in the chat, is join professional groups, okay? You can do this in LinkedIn, or even actually Facebook has a very vibrant professional group community. And it's not just joining these groups, but it's also posting and commenting in them, because these things are typically a public or a forum in which you might want to get hired in. And so future employers could see what you're posting. And what you're showing by posting is that you're hireable. You're hireable in a work from home setting, right? Because this is our new normal moving forward, as the start of the presentation said. A great example of a LinkedIn group you could join is the Global Marketing and Communications Professionals, right? And so that's just one way of saying, oh, you're keeping the conversation relevant, you're posting articles, you are demonstrating your expertise. All right. And then besides contributing to conversations and posting comments, I just mentioned writing an article. And writing an article might not be the first thing you want to get into, but I think easing yourself in throughout your job search and really showing the expertise is really important. There's a lot going on in the world and in the US, and for whatever knowledge that you could bring to that particular industry and function would be huge. Okay. And really just most importantly, stay visible. We also want to talk about getting through your virtual presence. Once you potentially get an interview offer, right? That's what your resume does. That's what the presence builds you towards, is making sure you have those virtual interview skills on par. You're going to need to be able to excel at video interviewing. Video interviewing is not going to be going away. When we look at employers just through the Office of Career Services and we're thinking about what their interactions are, many of them are going to an entirely virtual process. So you really want to be able to kind of maximize this, okay? First and foremost, practice, practice, practice. If you remember what your SARS or your situation, action, result stories are, right? Practice your tell me about yourself so that it comes off smooth and easy and elegant, okay? Practice with family and friends, former colleagues or current colleagues, whatever the situation you're in, trying to practice is so important. Practicing and making sure that you're confident in the situation helps make you powerful and memorable to the employer. That, remember, they're going to be seeing a lot of this. So if they're just sitting through 20 interviews a day with 20 faces, making sure that you're memorable, okay? And also part of practicing is being able to show that interest through video. A lot of times video doesn't always show that same facial expression that we might have, or what those tiny cues are that we might pick up on in person. So really ensuring that you are showing an intense interest in that role and it's coming across. So practice can help you do that, okay? And of course, as I mentioned before, showing you can work from home. Where you might do this includes Zoom, such as this. If you have access to it, it would be a great place to practice. But you could also use Google Hangouts or WebEx. Google Hangouts is a great alternative if you just need something to practice with prior to something. But usually an employer is going to send you whatever link that they want to do their interview through, and then you'll know that tool at that time. A few other things to prepare with include making sure that you're set up at least 15 minutes in advance. Technology is great, but inevitably something goes wrong. Just today, prior to this, my printer decided to fail. So, of course, thankfully, since I was ahead of the game, I was able to fix it. Establish a best lighting. Lighting is so key because, again, we can't see that necessarily, those key visual remarks that we might be getting otherwise. that lighting, so we want to be able to see your face and see your smile and your eyes. All of those things are really important. We talked about testing your tech, your camera, your connection, your headphones. Headphones are actually really important because they can have you have a better sound, as well as blocking out some of the outside noises that might be going on as well. Try your best to have a clutter-free and a noiseless background. And I know in our new normal that's not always the case, right? We are creating at-home offices in bedrooms, or we have dogs and children at home. But the best that you can do is really going to show to the employer that you're really trying to work towards this job, okay? Body language matters. So those small movements are huge. And I know, for example, I've been intentionally using my hands a lot to kind of show that demonstration, and smiling as well. It can create such a difference between creating a warm environment virtually versus not creating a warm environment. Looking into the camera, okay, this warrants mentioning very specifically, because typically when we do something like this, we stare at ourselves rather than staring at the person that we're talking to. So if it's just the two of you, make sure that you can try to minimize your face as much as possible. So you can use the camera, or you can use their face in which you're talking to. And then that way you're not staring up, or you're not staring awkwardly down. You're staring straight ahead of you, okay? But looking into that camera. And finally, dress appropriately. I know this is going to sound funny, but it warrants mentioning: wear pants. We are hearing countless stories of people who have gotten into an emergency or had to get up in the middle of something, and lo and behold, it turns out that perhaps they're in their boxer shorts. So please make sure that you are dressed appropriately. You feel like you've gotten your hair done, makeup if you're a young lady, but making sure that your outfit reflects what you really want from this, which is a job. We always say it's better to overdress for an interview, and then once you get into the corporate culture, you can dress appropriately there. Another great tip is how to develop new skills. So a lot of times it feels like you might have been laid off, or you can't find a position, and it feels like your skills are stagnating. Something that's really important here is any of these options that you see on the screen are places that typically, for a low cost or for free, you can take a course, for example, like Coursera, right? Or other places like Harvard or MIT or Stanford all have online courses that some are free or some for a low cost. There are the Learn, Educate, and Discover podcasts as well. Podcasts are a great tool these days. Again, typically free, and they can really help you develop a new skill or develop a expertise area. Udacity is a new one. It was developed with industry giants such as Google, AT&T. And Udacity offers hands-on nano degree programs. So really small programs and credentials to help people become web developers, data analysts, and mobile developers. And there's a free 30-day trial. So there is a cost associated with it. But if it seems like, you know what, this is the way of the future, technology is not going away, I want to learn it, it's probably something you could think about looking into. Skillshare is another new one that's up and coming. It has a 2-month free trial with it. I highly recommend it. General Assembly, this is all classwork, and these classes are all virtual. All right. TED Talks and YouTube are always out there for you to kind of learn something new from. And maybe that skill, when I look at TED Talks, could be mindfulness, or it could be, something around creating new habits, something to really improve those soft skills that you might have, not just the hard tech skills like we talked about with Udacity. And then finally, if you have a premium LinkedIn account, you can use LinkedIn Learning. And so, you have to decide if a premium LinkedIn account is part of your budget and it's something you would want, but the LinkedIn Learning resource is a strong tool that you could be using. Okay. All right. So the next place we want to think about where you're going to be getting and looking for these jobs, it would be first and foremost HireSmith. And I'm sure a lot of you are hopefully nodding your heads. If as an alum you didn't know you had access to HireSmith, well, welcome. HireSmith is open to all of our alums throughout their entire lifetime, okay? And you can access all the online career sources through there. A great example of that is if you want to follow up on some LinkedIn information, there's a great LinkedIn presentation on there on how to maximize your LinkedIn page that was done by another OCS colleague, all right? And remember, a lot of times a job search, this might seem like a lot. You want me to do this, that, and this other thing. Well, a job search can be like a full-time job in some ways. So make sure you're dedicating the time and really taking the moment to appropriately go through a tool such as HireSmith, and find those jobs. And you can find job listings on it as well. Some resources that we wanted to pass on to you were two really great upcoming virtual career fairs. Now that everything is going virtual, these are going to be how you do that. And all of the resources you learned today are going to help you prepare on how to really represent yourself well. The first is the Maryland Career Consortium on Friday, June 19th. They're great resources. They've done one of these last year as well, and we got good feedback from students who were able to attend. And then the Washington Post has one coming up on July 20th through the 22nd that we highly recommend as well. So you might be asking, okay, I have all these tools under my belt, but who's hiring? That's a great question. So there's some key areas that you're going to want to be avoiding. And the first is, all non-essential discretionary companies are going to be taking a big hit. Airlines, accommodation, travel agencies, places that you might be coming from, restaurants and food service, recreational cultural sites, and local transportation services and entertainment are all some of the hardest hit industries right now. But also, and we don't think about it a lot, business models that depend highly on ads or ad budgets are one of the first things to be cut. So that might not be another industry you want to go into. However, on the flip side of that, technology is somewhere that's hiring right now. Certain areas of retail, specifically consumer packaged goods, waste management, telecoms, pharmaceuticals, they're all hiring. We also hear accounting and consulting are areas that are hiring heavily right now as well. So there are options out there. It might mean shifting your career industry. And I think that goes back to what Erika and Rachel were saying about identifying those key companies you want to work for, both within industry and function. All right. How to identify opportunities to reflect the new reality? Well, they're everywhere, but this is just a short list, right? We talked about newspapers and periodicals. A lot of times jobs are being posted there. And there was a time where you would think newspapers, that seems odd, but it's coming back into popularity again. Google keyword searches, right? That's a great way to just kind of start to get a sense of what is on the market, what jobs are out there. And Google has a great way of pulling all of the jobs together from the different sites as well. We talked about associations, the SHRM is a great one. Indeed is another one. It's a tool that we recommend just because it's something that it can help filter those job searches for you. HireSmith, we already talked about. And for all my undergraduate alums out there, I want to give a shout out as well. Don't forget that you can attend the Undergraduate Career Fair. Finally, Careers for Terps, and of course, a LinkedIn page. And don't forget those company websites as well. So all in all, everyone, there will be ups and downs through all of this. Hang on, we're going to get through it. Remember, a terrapin can never go backwards. It can only walk forwards. And it's so important to keep your eyes on the future. It might seem overwhelming right now, but if you're going to break it down in the 2-hour job search as Erika recommended. Be strategic about it and take certain steps every day of the way. Employers are looking for people who are resilient, who have the ability to adapt, and that's what you're showing through managing this job search. And with that being said, I just want to show this last slide on a resource review. Feel free to take a screenshot now, or Mark is going to be able to email this out later on. And with that, our portion of the presentation is over. I want to hand it over to what questions that you might have for us.
So at this time, if any of you would like to ask some questions, feel free to unmute yourself and pose it verbally if you'd like to. I do see there are some in the chat room. I do see that I'll pose this one for you. Do we have access to the recording? I'm sorry, the virtual career fair info again.
Sure, I can back that up, and there you go. Oops. Hang on. Okay, we will. There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? And just to cover a few of the other questions I did see about the slides and the recording, we will share the link to this after this event. We will share the slides as well. So you will be receiving that, and it will have the resources there. We'll have a separate document for that as well.
I wanted to share with the group that Ashley mentioned that LinkedIn Learning is usually available for free at most libraries online. It's called lynda.com, and this was purchased by LinkedIn. So that's a great point. Thanks for sharing that, Ashley. Okay, this from Ellen. I'm a parent from a recent grad. How does the grad get advice on formulating those keywords in order to maximize his resume views? I'll speak to that, and Erika, please hop in if you have anything to add. We really work with our students in terms of, as you look at the kinds of job descriptions and job titles that your son or daughter is pursuing, he or she should really work those words into their resume and cover letter as well. So if they're looking for a specific type of skill or a specific type of certification, work that into your resume as closely as you can to how it's worded in the job description, and that will increase the chances that will be picked up by search engines. Erika, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, Rachel. Take a look at the job descriptions of the types of roles that you're applying for. And I take a highlighter to it, right? Highlight all the words that you see, not full sentences, just the individual words, the things that they're looking for, the skills, the competencies, the education, certifications, and highlight them. If you are applying for a variety of jobs, print many similar jobs that you may find on a variety of websites or a variety of companies, and do that highlighting exercise, and then try and think, if you have that skill, what did you achieve using that skill, and then integrate that into your resume. In addition to that, there is a resource. It's not a Smith resource, but it's a great resource. It's called jobscan.co. And what that particular site does is it acts as an applicant tracking system, like the one I talked about earlier, but it works for the job seeker, not necessarily the company. So what you would do with that particular site is you would paste your resume in one box and paste the job description in another, and it'll let you know how many words you have that they're looking for and what are you missing. So it's a great tool to help with that. They do allow you to use, to do 5 free scans a month. And then you have to pay for it. I'm not sure exactly how much it costs, but people are usually fine with the 5 free scans. But I would recommend doing the highlighting exercise first to get yourself as close to the positions that you're applying for before using it. And I'll put the name in the chat box if you're asking what it is. Hope that helps.
Okay, great. Thank you, Erika. Erika's going to share that in the chat box, job scan. Any other questions from anyone at all that we can address before we wrap up this evening? Okay, we've got a question from Chris. Do you recommend including an objective in your resume, and is it okay if the resume is over 1 page? I'll go ahead and tackle that, and then I'll turn that over to my colleague. At the Smith School now, you will see all manner of different resume formats, but generally at the Smith School, and this is for all of our populations, undergraduate, working professional, full-time MBA, we generally suggest not including an objective. Now, what we do include, what we do suggest using, particularly for our working professionals and those who have a little bit more work experience than our undergrads or recent undergrads, is to use a profile or a summary paragraph. And that can do an excellent job of summarizing you at a very high level. That can also nicely be transferred over to your LinkedIn profile. And that way, that gives it's a nuanced thing, but that gives an employer an idea of, it gives them a summary of you at a high level. So that is what we suggest on the objective versus, go with a summary or a profile. And then let's see here. Generally for undergrads and recent undergrads, we strongly suggest sticking to about a page in length. For working professionals, it can vary. A page to 2 pages. We don't generally recommend going beyond 2 pages, even if you've got a lot of work experience. There may be some exceptions to that, but generally 1 to 2 pages based on where you are in your career is the guidance we give. Erika, anything else you want to add? You're muted, Erika.
Sorry about that. You're spot on, Rachel, once again. Yeah, not the objective, but a profile can be very helpful to you, particularly if you have more than 1 page. If you have a page and a half or 2 pages, if you're a working professional with tons of experience, that profile can serve as a wonderful place to highlight or feature some of those keywords that you see in a lot of those position descriptions. And then the balance of your resume can support those keywords that you list at the top. Because the thing to remember is people read from top to bottom and left to right. So you want to make sure that the most relevant stuff is at the top, like in that summary. And that helps too if there's really critical information that's on page 2. You can use the summary to put it back up on page 1.
Okay, great. We did have another question. Is there a way to evaluate if your resume is easy to read by the automated computer reviews for a job? For instance, I was told recently that you should not put keywords in a header or footer, and that this was new to me. I am not 100% sure on this, so I would say, headers and footers are generally for, maybe your address and your name and page number, but Erika, perhaps you have some insight onto this one?
Yeah, you want to stay away from things like columns. Try not to use columns. You want to keep it simple. You don't want to use color. You don't want to use, pictures, certainly. Just keep it pretty simple. You can use Times New Roman, Arial, Courier. You can use a font that is easily read. But yeah, there are some different rules for ATS-friendly resumes versus resumes that you present. And you can have 2. So if you want something that's a little bit more visually appealing, you can have that second resume that you have with you at the actual interview. But for the applicant tracking systems, it's best to keep it simple. And you can use JobScan, like I said, as a source, because if you put it in there and it's not reading stuff, then you know that there may be an issue with your resume. And then I just want to quickly add one more piece of information on the question regarding page length. There's also a difference between your private sector resume and federal resumes. So if you're applying for federal jobs, like on USA Jobs, those resumes tend to be a lot longer. The average length of a federal resume is 4 to 7 pages. So a big difference there. But generally, just like Rachel said, shouldn't be more than 2 pages. And if you're a recent undergrad, really should be 1.
Okay, we've got time for just one quick question. We had another question about keywords. So again, I would refer you to Erika's answer. Take a couple of job descriptions and highlight keywords and look at that job scan. You want it to match up with the job descriptions and the common themes that run through the jobs that you're applying to. The last question that we will take: does the cover letter need to be tailored to the jobs to which we apply? In other words, do we need to write a new cover letter for each job? I would say yes and to that. You do want to tailor it to the job to the extent that you can, but you can generally use the same format for each letter. So you're not completely rewriting the entire thing. So in the first paragraph, you want to introduce yourself, how you found the job. If someone's referred you to the position, mention them in the name. In in that paragraph. In the second and third paragraphs, you want to pull something out from the job description or about the company that describes why you are a fit. And then finally, in the third or fourth paragraph, you want to indicate how you're going to follow up. So if you use that format, technically you're only going to be changing perhaps the second or third paragraphs. One error that students and alumni can sometimes make, and this is where you need to have good attention to detail, you want to be sure that if you are applying for ABC company in one cover letter, that you check your cover letter carefully when you're then applying to company DEF in the next cover letter, and make sure if you're cutting and pasting that you've checked it and not committed an error by naming the wrong company. Let's see here. As Erika said, you want to speak the language of the hiring manager, and hopefully you've gotten some insight into that through your networking and reaching out to people in this position. I'm sorry, I don't think we can take any more questions this evening. It's been great being here with you, and we wish you the very best of luck. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Rachel, Erika, and Courtney for sharing such great insights and tips for networking and job search in this new normal. This will conclude the webinar. A link to the webinar will be shared and posted to the Alumni Relations website, as well as to HireSmith once it is finalized. We'll also share a copy of the slides and a list of the resources. And thank you all for joining us, and have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.